you've seen a lot of your allies look at this whole debate around health care and see the issue of race being injected after Joe Wilson's outburst. This week, President Carter, I know you disagree with that race is involved here. And we've talked about this in several interviews about these kind of issues. You always dismiss it. So I'm just wondering, does it frustrate you when your own supporters see racism when you don't think it exists?
Well, look, I think that race is such a volatile issue in this society, always has been, that it becomes hard for people to separate out race being sort of a part of the backdrop of American society versus race being a predominant factor in any given debate. And what I've said when we talked about during the campaign, are there some people who don't like me because of my race? I'm sure there are. Are there some people who vote for me only because of my race? There are probably some of those too. The overwhelming part of the American population, I think, is right now following this debate, and they're trying to figure out, is this going to help me? Is health care going to make me better off? Now, there's some who, setting aside the issue of race, actually I think are more passionate about the idea of whether government can do anything right. And I think that's probably the biggest driver of some of the vitriol
right now. Whether you're going to raise
their
taxes.
Is, well, it goes beyond taxes. I mean, I think that what we're seeing right now is a part of a running debate that we saw during FDR, we saw during Ronald Reagan. Anytime there's a president who is proposing big changes that seem to implicate the size of government, that gets everybody's juices flowing, and sometimes you get some pretty noisy debate. But just to finish the thought, I think what I'm proposing is a very modest attempt to make sure that hard-working families out there are going to have the security of health insurance that they can count on. This isn't a radical plan. This isn't grafting a single-payer model onto the United States. It's simply trying to deal with what everybody acknowledges is a big problem. I think that there are some opponents who've seized on this and tried to use this as a proxy for saying that somehow we are vastly expanding government and taking over every sector of the economy. That's what a lot of this debate is about. I think they're wrong. The one thing I hope is that we can have a civil argument about it, and that we are able to acknowledge good motives on both sides. Everybody's a patriot. Each of us are Americans that care deeply about this country. And sometimes I think that, frankly, the media encourages some of the outliers in behavior, because, let's face it, the easiest way to get on television right now is to be really rude. If you're just being sensible and giving people the benefit of the doubt and you're making your arguments, you don't get time on the nightly news.
You might on Sunday morning.
But if you say something outrageous, you're there in a hot second.
But have some of your allies made it easier handed your opponents some ammunition, like ACORN, for example?
Well, look, I think that are there folks in the Democratic camp or on the left who haven't always operated in ways that I'd appreciate? Absolutely.
Congress said they should cut off all funding for ACORN. Are you for that?
Is that true on the other side as well? Of course that's true.
How about the funding for ACORN?
Frankly, it's not really something I've followed closely. I didn't even know that ACORN was getting a whole lot of federal money.
Well, the Senate and the House have voted to cut it off.
What I know is that what I saw on that video was certainly inappropriate and deserves to be
So you're not
investigated.
committing to cut off the federal funding?
George, this is not the biggest issue facing the country. It's not something I'm paying a lot of attention to.
Afghanistan is a big issue facing the country.
That is a big
now.
issue. That's worth talking about.